What's up, guys? EJ here, and we're going to be doing a review of the Denmark versus England game. A lot of anticipation, obviously, in England for this game, the second group game of England's journey through the Euros. And after last game against Serbia, there was a little bit of, apprehension and a little bit of, unhappiness with how England played, how they set up, which I'm fully aware of. And I think a lot of us recognize the issues, but for me, they're not new issues. They're issues that we've known for a long time if you've watched England play internationally. And we'll be doing a review of the whole game and going into some of the areas which need to be addressed. And there's different ways of going about it, but I think instead of talking about what you could or couldn't do, I think there needs to be a bigger assessment in terms of how do England want to play, what are their identity. We can go through that. So coming into this game, obviously expectations were very, very high. There was questions around Foden, his position, how to get the best out of him. Questions about Kane, is he too disattached from the rest of the play? Should he be leading the line? Is he dropping too deep? Questions all across the pitch in terms of how England set up the right way, and this was a key opportunity for them to show what they've been training, how Gareth wants them to play. And even in the beginning of the game, I would say they were quite flat. Obviously, Kane got the opening goal. It was the one time that England linked up and connected well. The ball finds itself rolling to Kane, opening the box after Denmark gave away the ball very, very poorly. And yeah, it led to them taking the lead. Kane popping up in the box, doing what he does best for scoring goals. And those are the positions you want him in, getting on the end of moves, picking up on loose balls. And you would have got into an area of self-confidence. You would have suspected England to push on and try and go even further with the victory. However, they seem to drop back, seem to get a little bit more stagnant. I don't know if that was more Denmark or England. I would say Denmark was set up really, really well. Kudos to them and their team. If we just look at the momentum through the game, as you can see early on and when the goal was scored, England were, I would say, more dominant than Denmark. As soon as that goal was scored, they seem to drop back. They seem to have a mentality of safety, which is very, very dangerous in international football, especially in the major competitions. Teams know that they have limited opportunities, so they're going to try and wrestle back control of the game as soon as possible. And England gave it away so quickly and didn't get it back for the rest of the half. As you can see from the moment, Denmark had a sustained amount of pressure and it capitalized with an absolute wonder strike coming from a Kane mistake. England were already under pressure, so I would say he's definitely at fault for the goal, but if it wasn't, it was going to come at some time. And he gave away the ball very, very loosely. He wasn't looking when he passed. If it falls to a Denmark player, we're in acres of space, no one closing him down, no one looking to get to the ball, and he struck the ball. And I think his name is Højlund, and he did really, really well to score. Sporting Lisbon midfield, I think, just recently signed a player that Arsenal have potentially been linked with as well. So yeah, it was a wonder strike, another goal in the Euros, which is just full of quality, and Denmark were deserving of that. Going into the second half, England were good at points, but nothing that ever looked threatening. When I say good at points, I mean decent at points. I'm giving them a little bit too much praise. They were decent at points, but they looked disjointed. They looked like they didn't have a clear plan. They didn't look like they knew how they wanted to play. A key thing to recognise is that Gareth Southgate took off his whole front three, replacing Saka, Foden and Kane for Watkins, Bowen and Eze. And again, move was necessary during the game, but it's very indicative of how they were performing and how they were set up. Looking at the other key stats, shots were comparable, 16 for Denmark, which is a surprise if you're an England fan, to England's 12. 3 big chances for England and 1 for Denmark. Again, we mentioned the Kane goal starting off the game, and then the Højlund goal, which was a stunning equaliser. The rest of the game, no one really dominated, no one deserved to come away with a victory, and it kind of petered out to a little bit of a drab ending. Now, if we look at the two teams, again, England set up compared to Denmark set up, you know what Denmark want to be very, very solid at the back, with that three at the back, the two wing backs supporting, almost playing at times as fullback, so it could, as displayed here, be 5 at the back, sitting very deep, supported by a midfield which is there to create, there to be solid, and they did their job. I can say no more, no less about how they performed. Would have liked to see more from Højlund. I think he is a player who has a lot of potential, just about how to harness it. When he's at his worst, he looks like he's just running around. Not to to slate him at all. But when he's at his worst, he looks like he's just running around. When he looks at his best, he looks like a physical monster with the ability to change games and annoy and disrupt centre backs. Looking at England now, and I've heard so many different theories, and I'm not saying some of them are incorrect. I've heard Bellingham moving to 8 to sit alongside Rice, Foden coming into the 10. I've heard potentially dropping Harry Kane and having Ollie Watkins starting, bringing in Aaron Gordon. There's been numerous discussions. Trent coming out, maybe moving back to right back where we might not need Walker in some of these earlier games, and then shifting around the midfield a little bit, having Mainu come in. There's been so many suggestions. The main thing I would say is England need to have an identity, and I don't think they've got an identity. And it's the way they've been playing over the years with Southgate, which has gotten some level of success, obviously with the semi-finals in the World Cup and the finals of the previous Euros. He's deviated away from that slightly, moving away from the Rashfords and the Sterlings, more direct players. And now behind Kane, he's got a lot of in-between players. And what I would say is an in-between player, someone who is very good in those tight spaces. That would be Saka, that would be Foden, Bellingham, who is almost like a second striker. I don't see him contributing a lot to the midfield effort. He's very much there to be a goal threat. In my opinion, he can play at the 8. Obviously, he's less effective, in my opinion. But if he's not scoring in that position in the team, then you got to try something else. And I think that's probably where we're going. I think England as a team have a long, long way to go. I think England as a nation have a long way to go. They need a manager that they can settle in who has an identity. I said it before as we were preparing for Euros that I don't think Southgate is the man. I still don't think he's the man. Someone like a Potter, someone like a Howe, who has a clear identity of how they want to play, have shown it across club teams, is someone who I think would be a better match and fit for England and the current crop of players that they have at their disposal. Key performances, I would say from my side, I think Anderson had a really good game. Højbjerg had a really good game as well. The two central midfielders for Denmark were really, really good. England, no one really stood out to me, if I'm being honest with you. Gay was decent at parts, made some mistakes, but recovered well. I'd be struggling to pick out anyone who I really felt had a really good day. England need to regroup. I like the mentality of their players not getting too panicked, but that could just be a false sense of security in terms of how they're playing, or it could just be experience in terms of knowing tournament football. And I think you've got to trust the players when players like Kyle Walker, Harry Kane mention that they're not panicking. I think that's a good sign of an experienced team, because they can't panic, they can't give away the tournament. Right now they look set to qualify from their group. They just need to perform and get a result in their last game, and then they're through to the knockouts. If they go through top and they get a favourable matchup again, we've seen it before with England. They didn't play really well in the last Euros and they got all the way to the finals. It could happen again. There's nothing saying that is not a possibility. So they need to find themselves. They need to isolate themselves in a system that would benefit them. It may be more beneficial getting Bellingham as the player in the 8 and then Foden in the 10, and getting a more natural direct winger like Gordon, who can exploit some of the width that England don't seem to be possessing. They don't seem to be constantly stretching teams, and that's one of the things that they need to do. But guys, we could wax on lyrical about all of the problems. There's another game which is being played right now. I'm watching it, Spain versus Italy. Very good game. I was saying to my friends, this is a proper football match. England didn't look coherent in what they were doing, and Denmark are a strong, sturdy team who aren't going to push out the boat too much to risk getting a less favourable result. But guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this review. I'm going to be coming back with a Spain-Italy review straight after this, and we'll talk soon. Peace.